Ferrari's SF-26 hasn't just arrived, it's already dividing the paddock. Some see a future championship contender, others see a car living dangerously close to the edge. And after what we've seen during the Barcelona shakedown, one thing is clear: Ferrari didn't come here to play it safe. This is a bold, uncompromising concept built to exploit the 2026 rules to their absolute limit, and early testing has revealed exactly how high the stakes really are. Before we break this down properly, make sure you're subscribed to F1 Grid, because throughout this testing phase and into the 2026 season, we'll be cutting through the noise and telling you what actually matters, not just what looks fast on paper. What's especially fascinating about Ferrari's SF-26 is how deeply the entire car is shaped around energy deployment under the 2026 rules, an area many fans still underestimate. With the new regulations placing a much heavier emphasis on electrical power and reduced fuel flow, Ferrari have clearly designed the SF-26 to be hyper-efficient in how it harvests, stores, and deploys energy across a lap. Sources close to the paddock suggest Ferrari's energy recovery system is far more aggressive than most of its rivals. The car appears optimized to recover energy earlier and more frequently during braking phases, even at the cost of short-term drivability. This aligns perfectly with the pushrod suspension choice. A stable aero platform allows more predictable braking behavior, which in turn improves energy harvesting consistency. In simple terms, Ferrari are trying to turn every braking zone into a performance advantage, not just a necessity. However, this approach introduces a new challenge: thermal management. With tighter bodywork, steel alloy components, and higher electrical loads, heat rejection becomes critical. Ferrari's cooling philosophy is noticeably different from Mercedes. Instead of spreading heat over a larger surface area, Ferrari have opted for localized, high-efficiency cooling zones. That's why you see those narrow side pods and tightly packaged internals. When airflow conditions are ideal, this system works brilliantly. But if track temperatures spike or the car gets stuck in dirty air, managing heat becomes significantly harder. This could explain why Ferrari were cautious during peak daytime running in Barcelona. Rather than chasing lap times, they focused on varied run plans, altering engine modes, lift and coast strategies, and deployment maps. The goal wasn't speed, it was control. Ferrari wants to understand exactly how narrow their operating window is and how to widen it before the season begins. Another crucial factor is tire behavior under the new aerodynamic load profiles. The SF-26 generates downforce in a more rear-loaded manner compared to the SF-25, which helps traction but increases stress on the rear tires during long stints. Early data suggests Ferrari's rear degradation is manageable, but sensitive to setup changes. A few millimeters of ride height or a slight suspension tweak can swing performance dramatically. This is where Ferrari's engineering depth will be tested, not just in design, but in adaptability. Lewis Hamilton's role here cannot be overstated. Ferrari didn't just sign him for marketing or legacy reasons. They signed him because he excels at translating complex car behavior into actionable feedback. Hamilton is known for identifying subtle balance shifts that younger drivers often adapt to rather than question. If there's a hidden flaw in Ferrari's aerodynamic concept, something that only appears under specific corner combinations or energy deployment phases, Hamilton is likely to find it. Charles Leclerc, meanwhile, brings something equally valuable: raw confidence at the limit. Leclerc is willing to push unstable cars harder than most, which helps Ferrari map the extremes of the SF-26's performance envelope. Together, this pairing gives Ferrari one of the most technically complete driver lineups on the grid, perfectly suited for a high-risk concept like this. The bigger picture is clear. Ferrari is not building for gradual improvement. They're building for regulatory dominance. The SF-26 is designed to peak as teams fully understand the 2026 rules, not to ease into them. That's a dangerous strategy, but also the only one that can deliver a true competitive reset.
If Ferrari gets this right, they won't just be fast, they'll force everyone else to rethink their concepts. And if they get it wrong, the margins are so tight that even small miscalculations could cost them an entire season. Either way, the SF-26 is already one of the most important cars of the modern F1 era, not because of what it has proven, but because of what it dares to attempt. The SF-26 immediately stands out because Ferrari have gone for a complete architectural reset. This isn't an evolution of the SF-25, it's a ground-up rethink built solely around the new regulations. The most obvious signal of that mindset is the suspension choice. Ferrari have committed to push-rod suspension at both the front and rear, abandoning solutions they've used for years. The goal here is airflow control and platform stability, allowing cleaner air to feed the floor while giving engineers more freedom to tune pitch and ride behavior. It's a solution favored by teams chasing aerodynamic efficiency over mechanical forgiveness, and it tells you Ferrari are chasing peak performance, not comfort. Under the bodywork is where Ferrari's biggest gamble lives. The SF-26's power unit features steel alloy cylinder heads, a move no other manufacturer has openly committed to. Steel allows higher combustion pressures and temperatures, theoretically unlocking more efficiency and power. The trade-off is obvious: weight and thermal risk. Ferrari believes they've solved the reliability challenges that surfaced during development, but testing exists for a reason. Early mileage has been encouraging, yet the car's brief stoppage during its shakedown reminded everyone just how thin the margin is when you innovate this aggressively. Aerodynamically, Ferrari have taken an equally ruthless approach. The side pods are compact, steeply undercut, and designed to aggressively push airflow toward the rear floor and diffuser. The cooling layout is tight, the packaging is extreme, and the entire car appears built around a narrow operating window. When it's in that window, the SF-26 should be very fast. When it isn't, it could become difficult to manage, especially across varying track conditions. That's where Barcelona testing becomes crucial. Charles Leclerc's long runs showed promising consistency, particularly in wet conditions where the SF-26 demonstrated impressive mechanical grip and stability. Lewis Hamilton's first extended runs were deliberately conservative, focused on system checks, energy deployment, and correlation rather than outright lap time. Ferrari aren't chasing headlines right now, they're chasing data, and that's exactly what a team with this level of ambition needs. What makes Ferrari's approach even more interesting is the contrast with what we've seen from rivals. Mercedes have looked calm, methodical, and extremely reliable. Aston Martin's AMR-26, meanwhile, revealed just how aggressive the midfield could become in 2026. Adrian Newey's influence is already visible: extreme suspension geometry, radical side pod inlets, and a heavily sculpted engine cover focused on airflow efficiency. The AMR-26 looks complex, ambitious, and packed with aerodynamic intent. But like Ferrari, Aston also suffered an early-on track stoppage, reinforcing one key truth of this regulation reset: nobody is immune to risk. The difference is philosophy. Aston appears to be building flexibility into their concept, leaving room to simplify if needed. Ferrari have gone all in. Gloss paint was chosen over matte purely for weight savings. Cooling margins are tight. Floor geometry is aggressive. This is a car designed to win, not one designed to survive comfortably. And that puts enormous emphasis on Lewis Hamilton. Few drivers in F1 history can feel aerodynamic instability as early or as clearly as Hamilton. His feedback will shape whether Ferrari refine this concept into a championship weapon or spend another season chasing balance issues. At 41, Hamilton isn't here to wait for long-term projects. Ferrari knows that. The SF-26 is built to deliver now.
But Ferrari's recent history means perception matters. When Mercedes stop on track, people assume solutions are coming. When Ferrari stops, people assume it will collapse. That narrative isn't fair, but it exists. And that's why every lap in Barcelona matters more for Ferrari than almost anyone else. This SF-26 isn't just a car, it's a statement. Ferrari are done hedging. They've embraced risk, innovation, and a philosophy that prioritizes ceiling over safety. If it works, 2026 could finally be the year Ferrari returns to the top. If it doesn't, the questions will be louder than ever. So make sure you're subscribed to F1 Grid, because as testing continues and the truth starts to emerge, we'll be right here breaking it all down, honestly, clearly, and without the hype. The Ferrari era everyone's been waiting for is either about to begin or about to face its toughest test yet.